you all the usual suspects, the chief suspect. He did send a message that he is running a little bit late. I
Oh,
did,
there's a penalty here. There's something called penalties.
of course. So,
I
as
mean,
the
let me tell you something. His debt is piling.
oh, it's very high right now. It's
Yeah, yeah,
very,
yeah,
very
yeah,
high.
yeah, 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 yeah,
My
yeah.
dear,
I don't even know if the IMF or the World Bank could bail him out.
I tell you, he's probably out there, delivering the last of the roses that he forgot to deliver
You
today.
understand?
He's,
Exactly that.
so when he gets here, hopefully he will get here very, very soon because we have a lot to discuss on MEK We Chat this evening, and a lot of that lot is happening over there in St. Vincent. So,
Right, yeah, because I was seeing bits and pieces. Well, it seems as though George can hear us
George is
now. So
hearing us
Beverly, you
now.
probably need to
Yes.
take him to task.
I was introducing you this evening, our suspect in charge, George Grant, over there at the controls. And we're saying today is Valentine's Day. You're allowed to wear a red shirt or a white shirt, but not a black shirt. That's for New Year's Eve, not for Valentine's Day.
Precisely.
I'm sitting here looking at you guys and wondering, hey, everybody's wearing red tonight. What's going on? And then it just dawned on me now that
But mine was pure accidental. It wasn't planned.
well, neither was mine, obviously.
Yeah, right.
Anyhow, happy
Well,
Valentine's, ladies. I mean, I am so honored. Let's see, one, two, three women.
Only Margaret was celebrating. She was about to open the champagne.
she did. I heard it pop.
Yeah, you know
So,
why?
so we'll have a sip of champagne later. We'll drink him on the job.
Okay. I don't even have coffee here tonight.
Yes, you can drink from the morning cup as long as what in, as long as whatever is in the cup, is not spiked.
Well, there's no guarantees. No guarantees.
But
But
at least the morning will mask it.
we'll be on our best behavior.
Yeah, for
Yes,
sure, right? For sure.
you know. Valentine's Day.
I
So,
know,
yeah,
I know.
What did you do for
yeah,
Valentine's, Margaret?
Me? Oh, I worked.
And Catherine?
Nothing.
So,
I mean,
and then I
come
I
on.
took
don't
myself to
celebrate
dinner.
Where's the romanticism in you folks? What about you, Beverly?
well, I thoroughly enjoyed my day. I I worked, yes, I did. But in the midst of all the work, I touched base with a few people, created some confusion with all the Valentine messages that we send out. And I had some fun.
Now, I would, on Valentine's Day, I would expect to hear you talk about, I contacted someone special. A few people, Beverly?
Oh yes, you have to keep the basket very full.
Yeah, man.
Mm.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. And there I was
It
thinking she
makes
was
it
a,
more interesting.
Of course.
there I was thinking she was a prude.
I'm a prude.
Ooh.
You remember that, right?
Oh my
I
God.
will not soon forget that one.
Oh
Oh
boy.
no, they're gonna jail you all. They're gonna really jail you all, you hear?
I love my country. I love my country. Oh boy. So,
It's just that time when you share the love with everybody in your life,
Yep.
all the different types of relationships you have. You just take the day to just be special.
yeah, I would imagine that a lot of the restaurants are going to be just crammed tonight with people taking their Valentines out to dinner.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Well, I
Most
hope
certainly I
so.
hope so. Yeah.
Oh well, that's their problem.
Oh, it's not their problem. It's for them to enjoy.
Okay. Well, I hope
Restaurants
they
will
enjoy. I hope
Of
they enjoy.
course. Mhm. So they should.
And
But
and
then
they
you could also take care of yourself too.
excuse
Why
me.
do you have to wait? Yes, you could take
Ex
care of
Margaret, how she
yourself.
celebrate
Prepare
today?
your own dinner, have your, all of that stuff, which I did.
uh, uh,
Or take yourself out to dinner, which I prefer.
I bought me my dinner.
by the way, were you having some sort of Chinese food tonight? As usual, as
I,
usual. When she showed up
yeah.
tonight, as usual, as usual.
Oh my gosh.
Thai.
Was it Chinese? Oh, Thai?
Yeah.
Well, do you mind describing it to us, sharing with us?
Oh, so I had a ginger stir fry with sticky rice and some vegetarian dumplings. That was all. The ginger stir fry with vegetables and stuff and all that good flavors.
The the ginger vegetables, I
Um,
really really like. I really enjoy
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. Ginger adds such flair
Yeah, but it
to
has to be
food.
done right, eh? Or else.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, I had some cheese crackers tonight. Cheese. What do you call them again? It's not. I think Dixie or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I like
okay.
this.
Uh-huh.
This, yeah.
Yeah, and a cup of coffee.
Oh,
That's it. Don't you guys
oh,
feel
and George.
what? Yeah. Look at the dessert. Look at the dessert. You see that? You see what I mean? So people know now that I'm not being mean when I slam her about always eating.
Oh, but did he tell you about all his eating last night and his boasting about his breakfast and his dinner and lobster for
Nice.
breakfast, baby? Mm-hmm.
What?
Yes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes,
Well,
yes,
who
yes.
can have lobster for breakfast is cricket.
Yeah. It's what?
Cricket.
Cricket. I haven't heard that one before. Uh, okay. Yeah, man. You know, yesterday morning, Sharon, not yesterday, 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago, Wednesday. Sharon was on the program here. And I felt so embarrassed. I'm sitting here doing the program, and I had not had breakfast, and my stomach's going.
Mm.
So during a commercial break, I said, "Girl, Sharon, I'm hungry. You know, when we finish here, what are you doing?" She says nothing. I says, "Why don't we go downtown somewhere and pick up, some brekkie?" All right. And then she says, "I have a better idea. Why don't you come up by me and I'll make you breakfast?" Now,
Aww, that's
now,
nice.
I have never been to Sharon's place, right? I've known this lady now for years, but I never been to her place. But yesterday I decided, let me go. And what really enticed me was when she said she had blood pudding. You guys ever had this thing called blood pudding?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
blood pudding, yes. They call it black pudding here.
Okay, black pudding. Okay,
Black
yeah, right,
pudding, yeah.
right, right. Now that's something
The
I
black
grew up
pudding.
on. But over the years, I decided once I left Grenada, I decided let me stop eating this blood thing. And
Yeah, I wouldn't eat it here though.
I haven't eaten blood pudding or black pudding in about 40 years. So when she said black pudding, I said, sure, I'll come on up. On the way up, she also mentioned lobster.
Wow.
My eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. And I thought,
Mhm.
how is this woman going to? I'm hungry. I don't have time to wait for her to cook lobster. Man, in a heartbeat, this woman had lobster and rice and peas and all kind of stuff.
That was proper dinner or
All
lunch.
right.
Ex-
Mm-hmm.
for breakfast,
Good,
11:30 yesterday morning. 11:30.
Mhm.
So George was in seventh heaven. Now,
You had your Valentine's lunch a day early?
Early,
t- 2 days
exactly.
early. Yeah, yeah, I did. And then last night, at her brother, they invited me over to their place because they play this game, a card game called Kaluki.
I don't know it.
No, no, you
I
know
never
it.
heard of that.
Okay, I didn't know it either. Okay, so I went over. There were about nine, 10 of us up there, and had a wonderful time. They prepared nice curry chicken and a nice cream sauce. You know I love cream sauces, right? And so I thought it's my turn next. I have to get back into the kitchen, and I want to do right, Mags. Have you?
Yeah,
You've had my coquille, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna get back into the kitchen.
And
What
when you're
about you?
all for
Huh?
the fancy dishes, just invite me. I'll come and eat.
You coming? But you, hey, you still very picky and finicky about what you eat. So what are you talking about? You coming?
Well, I'm gluten
She will
free,
find
so
something.
there's a lot of stuff I don't eat. I don't eat anything with flour.
Well, my cream sauce has flour in it.
I know, so I won't eat your cream sauce.
Well, then you miss. It doesn't make sense coming because that's at the heart of the meal.
No, you just
Ah,
have something else there.
I am sure there are other things besides cream sauce.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. If we do whatever we put in the cream sauce, like lamby or shrimp or whatever, lobster, I guess you'll just wash it off, right? You pull it out of the cream sauce, wash it, and eat it, right? Huh?
I should in some good old tap water.
You could do you could do a lemon butter
Oh boy, oh boy.
without the flour.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lemon butter sauce.
Yep. Yes, folks. So it has been quite a week. Well, one of the things that made the rounds all about, is the fact that Grenada has 5 artists in the international super monarch for Trinidad. And
People still talking about that?
oh yeah, people will not stop talking about that until after the final.
When is the
So
final?
I think it's the 3rd of May, March. Sorry, not May. Oh dear, not May at all. March. I think it's somewhere
Yeah.
the first week in March, last week in February,
Okay.
over that period. Yeah. So the soca fans and those who go for those kinds of events will be in soca heaven talking about for those few days. But it's good to see a regional touch. That's the part of it I like. Trinidad has its soca monarch competition, but it's open up to the region. As a matter of fact, they call it an international competition. So artists from any other country can participate. And I think that is good. But sometimes we just so narrow and parochial in what we do. We can't see the forest for the trees. So for
Yeah.
those who into carnival and all that, enjoy yourselves, but remember there's more to life than that.
Yeah.
And what usually happens is that Karaoke Carnival is usually the same weekend as the Trinidad Carnival. Karaoke Carnival very often gets overshadowed by the big carnival in Trinidad. But I'm sure the folks in Karaoke still enjoy their carnival and have a good time. And that carnival in Karaoke has so many unique cultural aspects that it really is a shame that more attention isn't given to it on a whole by the state. It's just kept as a karaoke thing, but it's not really expanded to the mainland to include the entire country, as I believe it should.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, any evening have play carnival?
Huh? What? Anywhere?
I missed that one.
Oh gosh, somebody made a loud stoop. So I asked if anybody going to play carnival. I wonder if it was in response to the question.
Nah, I'm a spectator.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a spectator.
You're a
I don't
Trini
like
and you're a
crowds.
spectator.
No, I don't like crowds. I feel very uncomfortable in a crowd.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Margaret has
the minute time I get in a crowd, I start to panic.
the element for me that is very troubling is just the lawlessness
Yeah.
associated with some activities like so come on. It glorifies lawless behavior and upset them openly, publicly, glorifies it, and people applaud it and excuse it and support it. And I believe you should be able to have all the fun you want carry on all the carry on you want. But lawlessness, that that is just something which I believe we need to look at seriously as a nation and as people in general, and steer ourselves away from that path, or else very soon we will not be able to have any public event because of the way we go. The behavior will just be antisocial, and the whole purpose will be defeated.
The
Yeah,
same
you
thing.
know, I think the majority of people are generally law-abiding. It normally takes though the few bad apples in the mix to come and spoil it for everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. They just look for the opportunity to
Yeah,
carry out the
yeah,
acts
the
anyway.
opportunity.
But
Yeah.
it happens everywhere, Beverly, because this country, when they're having this Notting Hill Carnival, is the month of thousands of police have to be deployed in order to keep the law and order. So you see their presence is very, very strong here. That's what happens. Because they know that people are going to be misbehaved. And when you find out, they find they make so much arrest with people. A lot of arrest has been made. So it's really, really it's really that kind of this nature of this thing. Always have these people who will misbehave.
And
You
and
know,
and it,
Margaret, you just raised a very important point, that it's the few people who create the havoc, right? Which means that it should be something that could be easily brought under control. You know, if it was like the masses who were misbehaving, you would say, well, you don't have enough law enforcement to bring that under control. But with a few people, how come? How come they haven't brought it under control?
They wouldn't.
when I have been inside the National Stadium in Grenada, in South Monarchy, and when that crowd gets into its frenzy and start to literally mash up the place, the police officers who are deployed there, they just stand back and watch. It is not a
Oh,
thing they can do
well,
because
that's
it's a crowd numbering in thousands. So even if you have 100 police officers there, there's just nothing they can do about it. And these people literally mash up the place, mash up people's property, mash up this, mash up that.
You know,
And
Beverly,
I've seen it with my own eyes time and time again. So I'm guessing.
Beverly,
Uh-huh.
you just touched on a sore point there for me. You know, you've heard of Carabana, right? In Toronto. Carabana, I mean, years ago when I lived in Toronto, Carabana was a big thing. I understand it's not as big as it used to be, but Ontario is a province where law enforcement is very strict, and so are the liquor laws. Okay? You cannot or should not have any alcohol in public. And in the 16 years that I lived in Toronto, I only went to see Carabana once. Once. Why? I went downtown, this beautiful parade, beautiful parade. There's a West Indian woman who has a bottle of rum, and she's drinking in public, in everybody's sight. All right? And she knows you shouldn't do that, especially in Ontario. A police officer went up to this woman and said to her, please, you really shouldn't be doing that. Put that away, put that away. She tried to force him to take a swig. All right? She tried to
Wow.
force him. This is in plain sight of everybody. You know what? He tried and eventually gave up, and he arrested her. The next day, one of the black newspapers in Toronto talks about discrimination against West Indians. They wrote about this article. And boy, they blasted the police. That really irks me. It really irks me because the police officer figure, hey man, West Indian people are fun people. They're really trying to have a good time. So he was trying to get her to put this thing away. And she tried to make him drink it, and then she poured this stuff. Well, didn't pour it, but she splashed it on him. I mean, come on, come on. and then we cry foul after that.
Yeah. And then when things like that happen, it's usually don't cry about the discrimination and this and that.
Yeah,
If the discrimination is not if we already know that the discrimination is there, but acts like that discriminate.
exactly, exactly. And yeah,
You know?
there's a note here from John in Carrico. He says he's trying to listen live in parish number
Yeah.
7, but Flo, also Flo, also known as slow,
Slow.
is
Yeah.
is real bad. So he's gonna have to listen to the replay tomorrow.
Sorry you won't be able to stay with us, John, but we understand
Yes. Sorry, John.
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
the internet does not do what it is supposed to do,
Yeah.
and usually what we are charged for, we're paying for one thing and getting something else. Yeah.
Yeah, but that happens because nobody does anything.
You know,
I see. Look, one person bringing a case, maybe it will work. Why don't everybody join together and bring a class
they
action lawsuit?
won't. Thank you,
And
Margaret.
that's exactly the point.
That's the problem.
That's exactly the point.
I remember once when they tried to mobilize Flow customers, it was said, don't pay no bill this month. We need to get Flow attention. And people can't pay their bill just the same,
Yeah.
ain't here.
Only this morning I received a WhatsApp from a friend of mine in St. Vincent, Dougie the Freitas. Dougie runs a radio station up in St. Vincent. And this man has been having one hell of a rotten time with his internet. And it's costing him money, okay?
Of course.
And he sent a note this morning explaining that for 4 months he's been complaining and asking them to change the modem or do whatever it is they have to do to improve this. 4 months. And the matter still hasn't been resolved. And this
Yeah.
morning he says he's almost at his wit's end. You know?
I have issues with my internet and I'm just tired of calling Flo about it too. And every time, the last time I was told, oh, you need to upgrade. And I said, but if I'm not satisfied with what I'm getting, why should I go and buy more of what I'm not satisfied with?
Exactly.
That's not making any sense.
And it doesn't make sense. I used to tell people once upon a time, report the matter to the NTRC, the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission. Waste of time. Waste
Yeah,
of
it
time.
obviously makes no sense doing
Oh,
that.
yes, the NTRC is a waste of time with complaints. Total waste of time. Because I can speak from my personal experience, they ain't doing nothing. Nothing. Waste of your good time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they will go out and say, you need to report these things. Why? Because they think they don't have anything to do. They may have time to waste, but other people don't.
I'm sure there are complaints that, the FCC, I guess, whatever I don't know what the number is, but I guess there's a critical mass at which they will take action against, one or two complaints, probably not, but once it reaches above a certain number, they will take action because it means that there is a problem.
Let me tell you a few years to give you an idea of how useless these people are. When I was operating Chime here, there was another radio station causing me a lot of interference. Folks, I complained and complained to the NTRC for over a year. They did diddly squat.
No.
Eventually, eventually the head, the people, what do you call it now? The blanket, the umbrella body that oversees the NTRCs and these
Excel?
OECS islands, ECTEL. They told me in public view in front of a bunch of broadcasters, Mr. Grant, you have an option. Sue them. Now, doesn't that give you a lousy impression of what the NTRC is when your umbrella body tells you to sue?
Sue them.
But you should have sued them.
Beverly, where George getting the money?
That's it.
Easier said than
Yeah,
done.
and they probably know that that's why they say that. That's why it's easy for them to just slip it off their tongue and say, hey, sue them.
Sue them.
Because they know the average person doesn't have the
Yeah,
wherewithal to go through. And then the way the court system runs in the Caribbean, forget it.
Years.
Yeah, unless you could go directly to CCJ.
Yeah, right.
And it's quite possible that
Yeah.
in its original jurisdiction, it
So,
can
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
don't have
It's
to wait
original
for
jurisdiction,
that.
yeah.
And the original jurisdiction is to deal with cases of tort, business stuff like that.
Yeah, that may be where to go. To sue them. True.
So it's possible that you could look at a case and see if it is something that can go to the CCJ and take it there.
Well, if the regulatory body is not doing its job, I think that is something that could be taken to
Yeah.
the CCJ.
Especially if you can get Excel involved and then it becomes, more than
Yeah,
one
because I mean,
thing.
the complaint that complaint is not unique to Grenada. Clearly, everywhere Flow is operating, and I think what makes it worse is that they are the only player or the dominant player, which means the regulation should be greater because you don't have competition in the market.
Well,
And wherever you have a utility, certainly here where you have a utility operating like that, where it is the only provider, normally the regulation of that utility is far greater than it would be if you had, yeah.
seems like Digicel is making some inroads because, I mean, come on, guys. We have to admit that since just before Christmas, the
But
hassles. Huh?
did I see Digicel name come up in some lawsuit with something the other day, or something with some corruption thing in some Caribbean island?
Corruption?
Yeah, I
Last
saw.
lawsuit I heard about with them was the one where they took Flow to court here in Grenada.
There was
And the
something else.
government.
There
Or
was another
Flo,
thing that came up with them
wasn't it
this
Flo
week,
that
you
was
know.
taking the NTRC and
Yeah,
the
Flow
minister?
Yeah.
RC and Digicel to court
Yeah.
over the
You know what it is?
license.
There's a group of Haitians that are suing Digicel. Just remember.
Okay, after
Yeah.
one for that.
For?
Yeah.
For?
I just
What they
remember what it
suing-
is.
What are they suing for?
It's about their operation, how they control and dominated the market in Haiti. And I forget who it was. Something to do because I know either somebody sent it to me or I saw it. So I'll look through my bunch of crap that I have.
All right. Well, George, guess what? It's time for our first break. We haven't even looked at the menu yet. We're here chit-chatting as if we're minding our own business. But let's take a break and then come back.
We're just being very polite. We're killing time waiting on suspect in chief.
Well, he didn't say how late he's gonna be, so waiting
Yeah,
on him would
we
not
gotta
be
go.
wise to do.
Hey, let me
Yeah.
ask you guys something. Have you given thought to the possibility that this being Valentine's Day? Huh? Come on.
That is the real thing, you know. We
Well,
understand.
I did say he was probably out delivering those last minute roses, the ones he forgot to deliver to you.
And here are his closest three women, I think, sitting here, and this man has actually stood them up.
He better make sure he has really good things, gifts coming in here tonight.
Boy, he
Or
better
else.
have a handwritten note signed by his mom when he gets here.
No note tonight.
No note tonight.
We accept
accepted.
diamonds.
Yep.
We accept diamonds.
Only diamonds in this house.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's take a little break and we'll come back.
Sure.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Coop Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home. Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And GRENLEC is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
GRENLEC, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Say something, somebody. Don't sit there looking pretty.
Oh gosh, I am sorry. I definitely was not paying attention.
We're back.
Yeah, but George, you could welcome us all back, you know.
By the way, did I show you? You know, I've been crying out now for a long time. I need staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did I show you guys there goes Margaret eating again. Did you see that? Did you see her try to sneak that one? Did you see that?
I had to finish. It's just so good.
Okay. Did I tell you I got a new staff member? My first staff member?
No.
Hey.
Oh, George.
His name
George,
is.
you got a panda?
His name
A
is
stuffed panda?
Kelly.
Kelly.
Kellon.
Kelly.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Or Kellon?
Kelly. Look, man, he has it right on his ear here. Kelly, see?
Yeah.
Say hi, Margaret. Say hi, Catherine. Say hi, Beverly.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Well, guys, one of the things, while George puts Kelly to work, let us go to work ourselves. One of the things we want to look at this evening is the new Blacklist, which has been unofficially published by the EU. And I say unofficially because it has to go through some steps, and then it has to go to the official journal, and some housekeeping stuff it has to take care of. But it's out, right? And it is the EU Blacklist. It is that list of countries which the EU says not doing enough to fight against money laundering and terrorism financing. Well, the good news is the OECS countries seem to have fallen off the list. Last time I know that Grenada was on it, Barbados was on it last time as well, and Dominica, I think, don't quote me on that, but I think so. But those countries are off the list now, and as a matter of fact, let me see, Grenada for sure is there. Remember all the brouhaha about that. Barbados was there. Yes, and certainly Dominica was there as well. So I was right. All of them were there. So the new list is out, and those countries are no longer on the list. But we have on the list from the Caribbean still the Bahamas. We have Trinidad and Tobago. And we have Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, 2 United States territories, which are on that list. Although they are here in the Caribbean, we know they are still U.S. territories. So, the Caribbean on a whole, not looking too bad on this list. When certain countries are on the list, jump up and make a lot of noise and talk about the processes and they're not fair and all the rest of it. But when they're not on the list, nobody says that the process is not fair and all the rest of it, which is why I believe when the list come out, you need to just chill and don't say anything. You're either gonna accept it or don't accept it. If you do accept it when you're on it, you shouldn't accept it when you're not on it either. Because generally it's the same processes that are used and the same steps that are taken to the findings which result in somebody being on the list or not on the list. But as usual, our people in authority and leadership positions in these parts like to make a lot of noise when they see their name on a list. But when you're not on the list, the same noise doesn't apply. Inconsistency undermines integrity. And you see someone turn up all in blue, they didn't get no mind.
And notice they empty-handed.
Turn up in blue and empty-handed. Imagine.
Boy, Jerry.
My goodness.
Jerry.
Must have gotten changed.
Jerry, your goose cooked tonight, boy.
No. I am here because I know the Muslims have all kind of scandalous things to say as to who I am.
You said it already.
I know. I know.
You said it already.
I know. I know you want. Huh?
So that's it. And you just make it worse by turning up in blue with your two empty hands.
Yeah, two long hands.
What do you expect to have in my hand?
The
Diamonds.
register was open.
Red roses. Child, what's wrong with you? Don't tell yourself so cheap. You want some diamonds here.
Diamonds.
What kind of roses?
A girl's best friend.
Not only that, it's a girl's best friend.
Don't ask them too much.
We want to think that last.
You see this, Catherine?
They have some plastic roses these days,
No. Anybody bring the plastic roses? They will have it for a meal. Plastic roses, you're mad?
You want things that last? I'm just helping.
No, when I talk about things that last, I wasn't thinking about the roses. Not at all. So, yeah. So you're late. We're talking about EU Blacklist and the fact that the Eastern Caribbean countries, the OECS countries, have fallen off the blacklist. And from the Caribbean, it's the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, and 2 U.S. territories, Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands that are there.
You know why we came off, right?
Because we are such, what we'd say, we are so steadfast and upright in implementing all these principles.
All the sovereignty talk, all the fancy talk that they usually give you. Last December, they had until the 34th. And Trinidad is on there because Trinidad has not fixed it. All the fancy talk, all the big fancy talk. They say, fix your tax laws, put these things in place. The Russians do it. Simple.
Yes.
Simple. And these are the same ones talking about positions on Venezuelan positions. Sorry, folks, that is not the world we live in. Thank you, Tana. But having said that, though, I think the country that has made the boldest move in all of the new legislation is Barbados. What Barbados has done on the tax regime is to reduce all taxes, whether they are on foreign companies or local companies, to 5%. That's a major game changer. And I think until the other countries get that smart, Barbados is going to tremendously benefit because more investment will go there. If I know the sum total of taxes I'm going to pay 5%, compared to coming to an OECS country with 30 or 33%, we think I'm going.
No, but you see what the OECS countries do is waive the taxes for 25 years.
For
25 years.
well, you see, even that they're complaining that that approach they don't like it either because the American stuff is not liking that. So, to my mind, what these countries need to probably do and do is go to 0%. We already have that, and encourage investment. But it takes a bold leader to make that kind of move.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because they'll want to give the 0% to some people, but if sandals decide to come, they say, the sandals can't get it.
Exactly. And that's it. And that's one of the reasons why this region has no agreement with Canada. Because we tried that. We gave the EPA certain things. And when we came to negotiate with Canada, Canada said, hey, whatever you did for the EPA, you have to do for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to want to wrangle, and Canada put us stuff. And that's why we have no agreement till this day with Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Canada is still good. Canada still reaches out and does things for us, but there's no agreement.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the kind of leadership who take these things seriously, you see?
Sometimes I wonder if they understand. I honestly wonder if they understand the nature of the world in the field. Somehow me have got it right.
Oh,
that
yes.
5 and 5 thing is a brilliant move.
Me is a different kind of person with the handling of these matters. I think she has a clear understanding of how the business of the country has to work if the country is to benefit.
Let me point out something else. Trump, when he came into office, reduced, and I don't know if Margaret might know, reduced taxes down to something like 16% or something like that. But they reduced the taxes for the same reason.
Yeah, this tax cut, but you know,
not the tax cuts necessarily on say the emoluments.
That benefit the rich.
Yeah, not that. I'm talking about the trade taxes particularly, where they brought down the investment so that I think it's around 16 or 17%. We still at 30%. We cannot attract, these countries cannot attract anybody's money when the person comes in and has to pay all the other stuff and pay 30%.
It's the LIAT model.
What is that?
We don't know how to reduce taxes. Yeah.
You put them on and they stay there till they can come.
You know, talk about things that last.
Yep.
Those kind of taxes. Yeah. Yeah, so it is the last Blacklist had 16 countries on it, and this one has 23. So on a global scale, that is not so good at all, because we're talking about money laundering and terrorism financing. That is possibly not where we want to be. But a lot more, one of the things I always say, when it comes to law enforcement and finding and fighting those types of big money crimes, you can't send a penny to fight a dollar, realistically. So these countries that want to stop terrorism, financing and money laundering, they have to put the money where the mouth is. Because when they come like with the implementation of the laws to deal with money laundering in the Eastern Caribbean and other islands and other territories here, that is easy to do. Like go in Parliament and pass the laws. But when it comes to stuff that it takes money to do, these countries don't have the resources to do it. They just don't. So if we're gonna realistically try to close the gaps and close the loopholes for terrorism financing and these kind of things, it really has to be looked at on a global scale as far as the financing and resourcing of it goes. Because like the EU bloc can't sit there and tell the CARICOM bloc to do what they do, because the resource is just not there. It can't happen.
But having said that, right, we in a sense create a problem, because if we were managing things like, say, CBI and stuff better, because there are too many people who ended up with an Iranian passport or something of that, and that is really where the attraction is made. Look
And
at
wait,
go ahead.
but Jerry, that is a part of the resources. That's why it happened. Because if things were being policed properly, all of these hodgepodge CBI schemes would not have been set up. Could not have been set up, and there would not have been all of these loopholes for these shady characters and people, these nefarious characters who get arrested and charged for all kind of crimes. It wouldn't have happened, certainly not on the scale that it has.
I just want to point out that 2 days ago, the IMF deputy finished a visit to Dominica, and in that statement, he spoke very kind of way about the corresponding banking problems that Dominica is having and how the IMF will help them to solve the problem. Whole question of risking. Now, I've been taught how to read the language of the IMF. And what they're saying that Dominica has a corresponding banking problem. Nobody is going to say it but them. They have said it. And what that means is that Dominica could find themselves slowly but surely losing connection with the financial world.
But what is interesting about that, Jerry, sorry to jump in here, but it is the same IMF for the EU blacklist. It is the same IMF which designates countries as offshore financial centers for the EU blacklist, you know. Mm-hmm. So I find it really funny that the IMF is going to tell Dominica, we'll work with your man. But at the same time, Dominica was on the blacklist, so just come off. And it is the IMF that has to speak to whether or not a country is an offshore center for them to be on or off as one of the criterion for them to be on or off the list.
This last blacklist was specifically about taxes, eh? This last blacklist was specifically about your tax regime. Mm-hmm. So it didn't go over into some of the other issues. That is why Trinidad is still off. Because what has happened with Trinidad is that it's still on, sorry. What has happened with Trinidad is that Trinidad, I don't know, I've looked at Trinidad politics recently and it's a little bit disgusting. This basta between the opposition and the government is not good. It's just not making sense. It last couple of days was down to the Prime Minister asking Kamala, what have you done for black people? This is the kind of stuff that has been happening in Trinidad. Now, when the legislation came to Parliament, just like they did with the FATCA legislation, the opposition opposed it. All right? Now, there are aspects of the legislation these days, just like the fiscal responsibility legislation, say that Grenada has, that the opposition must sign on to. You know, in the past, there was legislation where the opposition could kind of just argue it away and not get involved. The new legislation now requires that the opposition, because they might be the next government, cannot say they didn't know. So they have to be part of the legislation. But the opposition refused, kept batted about. December 31st was coming. So what the government did, they took the legislation, took out all the bits and pieces that required the opposition to agree, and they passed it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the international community is not going to accept that.
Exactly.
So that is why Trinidad is still on the list, because Trinidad has not sorted out their list.
And it is so ridiculous. Because
it's ridiculous.
If and when the opposition, again, which is now opposition, forms the government, they're going to need the same kind of support to get it passed. And if they don't have the kind of support to get it passed, what's going to happen? These people are just ridiculous. They are so politically blind that they should not be allowed to sit in a House of Parliament. Sorry.
No, I just find
Trinidad's problems are more complex than
I agree.
That people, the one issue that everybody is scooting around, and I think every Trinidadian has stuck their head in the sand and probably don't want to admit, is the issue of race.
But you see, at the end of the day, Margaret,
You need to
it's
adjust
causing everybody. Okay? Because
Sure, it does, Jerry, but I'm not disagreeing with you on that. But the problem is that the racial problem in Trinidad is just so very bad and so toxic. It has always been. The problem is that it was, everybody kind of like pretended it wasn't there. But it has come to the point where you can no longer pretend that it doesn't exist. And so it's now on the fore.
I would say that, but I would also say that the Trinidad race problems, nothing near to the guy.
You think?
Nothing, I'm telling you.
You think it's headed there, boy?
It might be headed there, I agree with you. It might be headed there. And until they take out Fridays and linemen, the day they remove linemen, all fall. That has been my theory for years.
Yeah, I've heard Jerry say that for years. But IMF was really very busy in the area. They were in Dominica, they were in Barbados, they were in Grenada, and they praised Grenada profusely for the management of its economy.
Well, I think most people are sensible enough now to just have these reports enter one ear and pass out the other.
Yeah, the IMF teams, unfortunately.
But not the politicians, though.
Of course, it's good politics for them.
No, but also good politics, but also understand that the financial world pay attention to those things. It's upon which they act.
Unfortunately.
But that's the truth.
And the IMF teams now, when they come into the region and go into the various countries, they just rubber stamp whatever the government tells them. That is all that happens. Where is their own analysis and their own input on whatever they find? You don't see it. You just see one of these reports, and if you look at the reports, the IMF reports, they have become shorter and shorter, and very soon they might end up being one paragraph and maybe go down to one line, revisiting the stuff.
I think they just got too many figures now, quite frankly, and less explanation. There's a lot of figures and less explanation. So the average person will not wade through it. It's just too many figures.
Exactly. You just make sure that they're comfortable for you enough.
It's not just reduced in number of pages, it's just reduced in what it says. You actually know exactly what an IMF report is going to say before you see it. So that is where I'm going. There is no sense of independence or critical analysis or anything that you can read in the report to say the IMF actually did some work when they come into the country. Is a rubber stamp on whatever the government says.
Exactly. And I mean, unless you have, some real auditing where everything is done, I ain't giving them reports, no kind of thing. Because if government bureaucrats had to hand you figures, obviously you think they're going to hand you bad figures?
But I agree, but what else could they do?
No,
they can't.
I hear you.
It's a tough situation. They can't think. And that is why I say, whenever it gets to the point where they have to give a government a bad report and the government hides that bad report, I think they compound the whole problem right there. Because when they get to the point where they have to give a report that is a bad report, listen to what we said before, right? That they collect these figures from these people and they write nice report. But when it gets to the point where they have no choice but to give a bad report, and the government, who is responsible for that bad report, hides it from the population, that is where I think I pass.
And didn't you say that now, they have the option of making it publicly available or not or whatever?
No,
because once upon a time you used to be able to get it. I mean, when I first came to the United States, because I remember when before I left, and you hear IMF reports and stuff and whatnot, and it's kind of like, this big thing, because they hold on to it like whatever, and they give you out in pieces. And I remember my first visit to the UN, and I walked into the UN bookstore, and all these reports were just there, and I went like, huh? Your eyes just suddenly pop, because it was suddenly available to you like that, and So the question is, are those reports still available? to people like that.
The stand of the IMF is to publish, right? That's the stance of the IMF. But ultimately, the government still has the option of not to publish. And
but you see, that I take issue with that.
Yes,
and
I agree.
You know why I take issue with that? Because if the country's funds were the only things that were involved, I would not have a problem. But when you go to the IMF to borrow funds, you're borrowing other people's money.
Other people's money, exactly.
And as a result, that does not give you the right to say what can be said about how you've used that money and what cannot be said about it. You know, you need, and as I always say, you know, there's this saying that everybody knows, beggars can't be choosers. When you come to the table as a beggar, you cannot dictate the terms. You just cannot. It is a sad thing to say, but that's the fact.
That's a fact of life, yes. And the thing about that is that, as I say, in fact, when I was there, I used to argue that in every single session. I used to put it down to this, even before was it Madam name again? Even a session before her. I put it down to this way. I say, you have a child, and I said this in the forum, you have a child that goes to school. The child gets a bad report and hides it from you from home. How are you, and I asked that to the assembly, how are you going to accept that? I said, when you come to the country, the conversations that they have with the opposition, as far as I'm concerned, is just a courtesy call. Because they don't really take much of what the opposition, because they say the government is in office and the government is in power. Therefore, hold on, let me finish. Therefore, I'm saying if the government is in power and if the government has the reign, then they have a responsibility to tell the people what they're doing. And they shouldn't be allowed to hide it.
But here again, the IMF is going to tell you they can't step over whatever the Prime Minister says. And we cloak the Prime Minister with these powers that they don't really possess. Because
this is sovereignty, yeah? This is a sovereign country.
Yeah, it's a sovereign country, but it's a sovereign country. I mean, and I agree. Let me tell you something. I'm a big defender of sovereignty with conditions. Now, you are entitled to your sovereignty if you decide, look, I'm winging it on my own and I'm going to, you know, bite the bullet and solve my problems, and you're not going to come in here and tell me what the hell I'm going to do because I don't need your stuff. But when you decide you're going to be stepping outside of those bounds and going to the IMF and using the IMF's money, you're not the only person there. You're using everybody else's money. That's what the IMF is taking to lend to you.
Yep.
So that changes the whole dynamic. I don't care. You have just lost the sovereignty that we talked about. You've just done that.
I agree 100% with you. Totally. And that is my argument.
When the IMF says something like, during our meeting, Prime Minister and I discussed economic developments, whatever. I commended the Prime Minister and the people of Dominica for their steely resolve. So where does the people of Dominica come into this? You have a meeting with the Prime Minister, you talk to the Prime Minister, and all of a sudden you are reporting about the people of Dominica. At what point do you come in contact with the representation of the people of Dominica?
Let me show you that. This morning, in a story corner of Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, speaking to the Venezuelan issue, says, we're not going to have any problem, no intervention, because the people of Venezuela chose what they have. When they elected Chavez and when they elected Maduro, they chose that to let them fix their problem. It's the same kind of thinking we're getting here from them. So they're saying, once we come, you elected the Prime Minister. When the Prime Minister speaks, he speaks on behalf of you. If you don't want it, so change him. Change him.
Yeah. And realistically, when the IMF team comes to our country, the IMF team should be meeting with somebody like the Public Accounts Committee. That is who they should be meeting with, you know?
But you know, and I think they know, it's a total waste of time to deal with the public because the council are always so far behind.
Always.
So where are you going to meet to them for? To get history?
Yeah, but it's interesting, you know, maybe in Jamaica it is not so late because this big petrogam scandal now on in Jamaica. It's out of the Public Accounts Committee.
They found the information.
Yeah, that is where it all started. So maybe one country not so far behind at all. And
no, these other countries do it on purpose. Because the opposition leader is the de facto head of
that
public accounts. They're not going to give the opposition leader any ammunition. So they just leave it.
But you know what is interesting with this petrogram scandal in Jamaica is the fact that the PS and other public servants have been called before the parliament to give account of what is happening in the ministry. And every time I laugh at us in the OECS where the minister becomes the de facto head of the ministry and nothing can move within the ministry except they say so. And I happened to watch this thing in Jamaica and I just smiled. The PS, the people in the Ministry of Finance, members of staff there, so many of these people have to go before Parliament, almost like in court, and testify, give evidence.
But that is how, listen, we could
That's how it's
pretend
supposed to
here.
work.
No, we could pretend that, because nobody has called out the system here. Because that is exactly the system that we have.
Yeah.
Look, the other day I saw, for example, they gave the university, they were sending some money a couple of years ago.
Oh, yes. And the
And
university
the man had to go through
go to Parliament and explain.
Yeah.
I said, what?
Yes.
That one really caught me.
And within this petrogam thing, which is inquiry, I will call it, which is going on, we have told these public servants that they can face up to 7 years in jail if they have been found to give any false information to the Parliament. Up to 7 years in
Yeah,
jail.
because you would be in contempt of thing.
Yeah,
That's a contempt.
You see, when people take their roles as permanent secretaries, so they do not understand many things. They didn't do it, they ignore it. The legal responsibility that they have. In these islands, they allow the minister to overshadow them and just simply to supersede them.
Because the PSs step back and just give the ministry to the minister and they sit and take instruction from the minister as if the minister is their boss. But what is happening in Jamaica, I tell you, it's a perfect example of how the ministry should function.
Absolutely.
Because PS and everybody involved, all of them have to go into the House of Parliament and be questioned about why this thing happened and none of you didn't see it and didn't arrest it.
Exactly. Look, you had a situation here just today in St. Vincent where a member of the opposition revealed a memo from the Minister of Health which says that no information could go to the public unless it passes through him and he okays it. I mean, hello? Hello? If that is the case, then the civil service has lost its place. Not the permanent secretary now. And the Ministry of Health, in any case, is a technical ministry. So let us say support that the chief medical officer has something technical to send out, and the minister doesn't understand, then it can't go. Because if he don't understand it to be able to send it out, it can't go.
Yeah, because I don't know, over time we gradually created this hierarchy and it's just there where the minister is the head of the ministry, and it is something that we really need to arrest and address because it's a dangerous position that we put ourselves in, and we need to deal with it. Because like what is happening in Jamaica now when Parliament is dealing with this issue, when the minister is the head of a ministry and things collapse, how do you deal with it? There's nobody, there's nowhere to go.
Because the minister can't go to court because he's legally not responsible.
Can't. So things fall apart, and they just fall apart and stay that way because there is no structure. The whole structure has been modeled. The organization is in shambles, and the minister just takes over, and everybody takes directive from him. When he became the administrative head, nobody knows, but it just happened.
Guys, there are a couple of comments that you may be interested in based on your conversation here. Dennis Clark says, "Guys, it's the first time since Grenada has been a member of the IMF that I have seen a visiting delegation from the IMF being wined and dined by the government of Grenada."
Really?
He says, "I try to imagine a soccer match, and at halftime, the referee goes into the dressing room of one of the opposing teams and, and sits down for free drinks and dinner." What?
Oh no!
Well, he said soccer, so it was probably in the US. The rest of the world plays football. Only the US plays soccer.
Actually, that is the correct name, right? It's an interesting story of how the name changed to football.
Okay.
All right. Well, there's probably an interesting story too about the English language changed to English.
No, seriously. That's serious because me and a friend of mine had a real argument about that until it really is. But yeah.
Well,
as they say, truth is stranger than fiction.
Actually.
And whatever the truth is, the rest of the world play football, and the US alone play soccer. Oh boy. All right. So guys, it's 10 after 9. So let's take another break, and then when we come back, we look at some other stuff that's on the menu.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Chat. So the evening is where we hang out and talk about the things that we think are important for you to get a grasp of. And certainly, especially on Facebook, you can give us your views. Or if there's an issue that you would like us to talk about, tell us there, and we'll probably look at it whether tonight or another. So here we are. Bev?
Yes. Before we went on the break, you touched on the minister in St. Vincent, the health minister actually, who issued that directive that no information is supposed to go out to the ministry except it goes through him. And these health problems is one of the things I had on the menu this evening. There has been so much talk in St. Vincent about misinformation coming out of the health ministry.
After what I said earlier, are you surprised?
You know, there was misinformation about TB, misinformation about availability of tetanus vaccine, misinformation about number of people who died from TB.
Or whether there are people in the country with it.
Whether there are people in the country with active TB. We need to quarantine the island.
Yeah, but that is not something that you could keep, that you should keep quiet. You can't.
That's the
you
point.
shouldn't.
And
because it places everybody at risk, and given the nature of how TB spreads.
Exactly. And this is where why this matter has become an issue. Apparently, there was a patient at the mental health hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And from what we're hearing now, the patient was a mental health case, but also had HIV. And you know, totally opportunistic.
Yeah, it's an opportunistic thing, yeah.
Right, it's tuberculosis. I'll tell you how this goes. My sources tell me the man was in the hospital vomiting and diarrhea. Eventually he died. I don't know how long he was there for.
Right.
The doctor who came on this morning said that it's after his death they realized he had TB. No, I have a problem with that.
It's after he died they realized he had TB?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, to me, I am not a doctor, but I know those opportunistic diseases should be checked.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me, and we have enough information. You're quite right, Jerry. I'm not a doctor either. Mm-hmm. But given the nature of HIV and knowing the opportunistic diseases, I would think that if somebody came in, those were some of the things that you would check for. Pneumonia and TB. Key culprits.
So the man was and remember, I don't know about any other people's mental health centers. The hospital, they're not rooms. It's an open area. So this patient would definitely have been in contact.
Yes, so the patient would have been in general population as well?
Yes. Well, he would be. So as I told you this morning, the doctor that the serious infectious disease doctor said, and that's when she dropped the ball. I don't know if she realized it when she said it. When she said he was diagnosed after that. So they scrambled and tested 200 patients and staff and found that 80 came up positive for latent people. Now, this is where the whole thing goes because of the system of information flowed through. People are questioning whether this is really true, the results. And this is why everybody is up in the air about exactly what happened.
And you're telling me that the only people that they checked would have been staff and patients.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about the people that would have visited the hospital
absolutely
during that period
absolutely.
And would have gone out into the population. Oh Lord, mercy.
Or even the man's own relatives.
Yes.
So that is why I said this. They're trying to cover it down to say it's finished. It's not a closed matter.
No, something like that you can't cover. Those are things that you have to deal with them and deal with them quickly. You're better off dealing with it straight up quickly and
be done.
Yeah. Because the longer the more you keep it in secret, is the more speculation are going to run right. Rumors going to spread. Paranoia sets in.
The emphasis seems to be on maintaining a polished image rather than dealing with the problem.
Dignified silence, my dear.
Yeah, maintaining a dignified silence.
Well, let me say this. I heard myself last week in Parliament in the thing, but this matter had come, of course. the minister said there was nobody in St. Lucia. The serious infectious doctor this morning said that there is patients at the hospital with active fever. But those 8 people are isolated. This man was not isolated. He was in the middle for how many weeks? Vomiting, diarrhea, in the middle of the population before he died. And people want you to just accept that, oh, this is okay? For real?
And so let me ask you something. He was a mental patient?
Mm-hmm.
And where he died, at the General Hospital?
They took him eventually to the General Hospital and he died.
Okay. So, but prior to his going to the hospital, he probably would have been ill in the mental hospital. Mm-hmm. So that means that the people in the mental hospital would also have been exposed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why they rushed and did the test. That's why they rushed and tested 200 people. But as far as I'm concerned, that's not closed. It's not a done deal. They're trying to make it a done deal. Oh, we done our part and we tested and TB and these kind of things takes a while. So
yeah, to manifest themselves.
It's not a done deal.
Mm-hmm. So,
and the next story, sorry, Bev, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
The next story to do with that was just last week, a radio announcer made the thing that he needed a tetanus injection because he has diabetes and he has some issue and they wanted him to get a tetanus shot. And he went to several clinics and they did not have tetanus vaccine.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
To find out that tetanus vaccine seems to have been out of there for at least a couple of months. So they rushed and borrowed some apparently from one of the other companies. And when I asked the question, they said, oh yes, we got last week. So the same announcer called back the clinics that he called. And they said, yes, we got last week, or we got yesterday. But they want to claim that there was never a point when there was no vaccine. So today they called up people on the radio to call in if they had anybody get the vaccine. The one to me that was just from hilarious was to do with a patient, a St. Lucian patient who was in the hospital upstairs and some piece of something pricked her. So she left the hospital upstairs and went downstairs to ask the tetanus shot, and they didn't have it.
Wow.
To me, that was the case. That was just it. Finish all the other discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Because why are you saying that, okay, the old clinics might not have had, but why your main hospital doesn't have? If indeed you have. You once said you upstairs?
If you find you running low, maybe it would have made sense to consolidate what you have in one place and make it public that anybody who needs it should go there.
They did not have.
Well, duh.
And the Ministry of Health has been caught out several times like that. The same opposition member who shadows the ministry a couple of years ago came to Parliament and said that St. Vincent has not paid the regional pharmaceutical people and they have refused to deliver any drugs. Oh, listen to me. They prance, they jump up and down, how he like this, that, and this man is calm. And when they had sufficiently exposed themselves to drop the documents, I don't have to tell you how. I understand the minister went back to the ministry. Furious!
Not furious that they are delinquent in their job, but furious that the opposition member have the information.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And he pampered set on them. He let them go. And just when they thought they had made their point, he dropped the documents. And he's absolutely right. We haven't paid them for something like I think at that time was 2 or 3 years. And they had continued to supply. And then there came a point when they said, boom, not supply no more.
Well, maybe somebody who works in the system actually cares that people can't get drugs for the information.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I see Rachel has come to join us.
Hi, good night.
Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Good night,
Hi,
everybody.
Rachel. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we're talking about health problems in SVG right now.
Wow.
With the Minister of Health showing, flexing muscles over the ministry as if it's his own.
Wow.
My goodness. And putting people at risk.
Wow.
Putting people's
To look
lives
good.
at risk.
To look good.
Yeah, just because
Yeah,
he
but
wants,
you know, there's
to-
no looking good and things like that.
Clearly not with these people, my dear.
Yeah, and not when you're dealing with things as contagious as TB is.
Exactly so.
But what's happening in Grenada too?
Sorry, we talk about some stuff in Grenada already, but we
okay.
And we ain't finished with St. Vincent, yes, because I want to hear about these 3-year election petitions.
Well, yeah, so what's going on, Jerry? I've been seeing all these little bits and pieces and all your arguments online about this.
Well, finally, the trial, the petition got underway on Monday with some controversy within itself because they moved the court to the conference room of the National Insurance Services. I think
Why? What happened to your court?
Because I think
It's like Grenada?
it was no. We have a good court. I think it was psychological because they had said to people they should come out. This was a psychological thing because of the building and it's a fancy place. It might have intimidated some people not to come. And then there's not sufficient room for a proper gallery.
Okay.
I understand the senior counsel had to go downstairs and demand of the police because they had downstairs. And the second thing is in the building, the elevator is not working. It was just contrived clearly to keep as many people out as possible. So the senior counsel, when he came in, saw all these people downstairs and the police had stopped them and he put his foot down on the floor. He told the police, listen to me, this is below your pay grade. I see these people are coming upstairs. Stop, he got it that way. He says, this one is below your pay grade. It's above your pay grade, sir. He said, if not, yes, he said, if I'm not, I'm calling the judge and I'm shutting down this trial. Police just had still it.
But whose brilliant idea was it to take?
Oh, please. No.
And why would people go with this?
Well, you don't have any people in the court. I mean, they're in charge of the court. They're the government. Say that's what the court is, that's what the court is.
Yeah, but that's the way St. Vincent is running. It's a plantation.
You know.
So anything Master says is it happen. Oh gosh.
Like in Grenada, all people used to say, what I say goes, no dog back. What you say just goes when you're on the top. Yeah.
But it's interesting, and Jerry should give the background on the elections petitions because it's been 3 years since the election.
When is your next election due?
Next year.
So basically, I mean, why are they even bothering to go through? I mean,
no, they should.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with it, but on a certain level, it's like election is going to be back. You know, it's like.
No, hello, like we on.
I think what needs to happen out of this is that people need to see the what must I call it, the loopholes and stuff, so that when you get to the next election, you know what to look for. And I think that is one of the things, one of the reasons why this election is so important. Now, one of the key issues in the last election was that you had different ballots, different design ballots in some of the constituencies, and that certainly breached the representation of the people that says how the ballot is supposed to be designed. And there's a specific reason why it has a particular design to protect the secrecy of the vote. But the design of this ballot, for you to know whether or not that the person gave you back the correct ballot, you have to open the ballot. So when you open back the ballot, you could see the person's vote. And it was clearly deliberate.
And that's the question I was going to ask you. I mean, in the light of all of that, are there any efforts or any talk about redesigning the ballot or?
Well, I think people will, no, the ballot has a design that is in law. It is there in the Representation of the People Act. There's a sample ballot as to how the ballot ought to be designed.
Mm-hmm.
But the ballots that were used were not designed that way. And you know, see why? And that's why there's a case. You know.
Yeah, but this petitions hearing has been, this is the third judge that is sitting on the case? The third or the fourth? The third judge that is actually sitting on the case. There has just been so much, I would call it in layman language, just so much stupidness surrounding this issue. You have an election, you have people raise objections, and instead of dealing with the objections, you go and swear in a new government and just ignore whatever the objections are and carry on as if it is Sunday morning on the beach. I've never seen anything like that.
With a one, add to that, a one-seat majority.
Exactly.
I think to me that is the key to, that is the key, you know, not like they have 4 or 5 seats. It's a one.
And you say, well, yeah, because if you had 4 or 5 seats, you say, well, even if you have the hearing and you lose a seat or two, it would be the thing.
Exactly.
But you have one seat.
Like what happened in Jamaica.
Yeah, in Jamaica it was that close, and the new administration was not sworn in for a week because they had to do magisterial recount and sort out the thing and make sure that everything was above board before you have a swearing in, because what if you go and swear in the wrong person? But in St. Vincent, almost when night coming down, they rushed and swearing a new prime minister.
Well, what actually happened there is that the crowd had blocked, it's a tactical error of the crowd had blocked the road leading up to the Governor General President, which is, and they had blocked it. And once nightfall came, they thought that that was the end of the story. Prime Minister waited until after that and scooted in and got sworn in.
I bet they learned from that. They ain't gonna do that again the next time.
No, that's what I said. That's a totally tactical error. Totally tactical error.
And I would just hope the rest of the region is paying attention to this, because it's the kind of thing that other political parties will want to practice and will want to do. Do whatever you can, go and scramble, swear in yourself, and once you're sworn in, you take control of the state machinery and frustrate every effort to get to the bottom of something as critical as what should be the democracy of your nation.
In fact, one of the key things that I have, one of the key things about this whole structure, the NDP has to pay their court costs. UFP is paying for their costs out of taxpayers' money. As far as I'm concerned, when there's an election, there's no government.
Exactly.
Let the two parties fix their problem.
Political parties.
Right? It's a political parties issue. Let them fix it. And they've already spent close to $700,000. That's just one side.
Yeah,
that's just one side, you know. That's just one side. That didn't talk about the money that the opposition parties have spent. I think that is wrong.
Yeah, which is what I think happens here, because when you had that issue with Gore and Florida and all these lawsuits and stuff, the parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, are the people that are responsible for paying for that, not the
But that's how it's supposed to be.
States.
When there's no government, it's two parties that contest elections.
Two political parties. So
you can't take government funds and pay for party business here, man. That is really serious.
That is what is happening in St. Vincent. I don't know when an administration or a government.
But that seems to happen everywhere, though, because remember, you had government ministers in Grenada who would have done things and end up with court cases that the government ended up paying for. That, I mean, had absolutely nothing to do with government. That's not right.
That's not right.
That's not right.
It's not right. When you're acting on behalf of the government and something goes wrong, that's the taxpayers' money.
Exactly.
That situation cannot be the
a minister who commits any kind of crime while in office, the government should not have to pay for that person's defense.
Exactly.
The person was not acting on behalf of the people.
No. And in
so
the
why
case
should
of
the people pay for their defense?
And in the case of what is happening here, for example, taxpayers who are not supporters of the government are still paying of the political party. But something is fundamentally wrong about that approach.
That shouldn't happen. And these are things that the people of St. Vincent should really kick against. There should
You know,
be
I'm the
voices.
only person who has ever said that, and people have said that to me. Jay, you're the only person. One politician said to me, boy, you know, I never thought of that. I said, you never thought of it. I said, once there is an election, there's two political parties. What happened at the polls was between two political parties.
Yeah, that's not a government issue at all.
Not a government issue.
Yeah, but they are being allowed to get away with it.
Yeah.
But only the people of St. Vincent can put a stop to it, and we don't know if they are going to.
I stopped off yesterday. I say how we need an independent commission like Jamaica, right? Because I'll tell you this, see what you like about Jamaica. I love the conduct how Jamaican elections are managed. What did get fella name there again, boy? He did not a joke. Everybody on both sides respected that man. It's such a waste.
I mean, I don't know, and Bev could probably confirm this, but certainly from my experience, I couldn't see the average Jamaican in the street sitting down and accepting that nonsense.
But that is why. No, because I said that. No, because I said if something like this had happened in Jamaica, it would be torched. I get charged for wanting to incite violence.
No, you're not. I think it's a populace that's going to tell you straight up, we're not taking that nonsense.
No.
But you see, in the Southern Caribbean, you have this thing where we have a docile lot of people who just allow people to walk on top of them. Nobody is saying that you have to get up and stop them. But you could literally tell people, let them know you're not taking their nonsense. There are times when the people have to rise up and let them know we're not taking it.
Exactly.
That's in Jamaica, when there's an issue that affects the people, nobody cares or nobody remembers who supports
which political party.
That's correct.
If road need to be fixed, everybody going out and block the road, and nobody don't care is good constituency this. That don't matter. They're going to block the road and get the attention, and the road go fixed. So
that's exactly what you do.
That's why you all have to be careful with Jamaican and Grenada.
Yes. But in these islands now, people will not want to protest because the party which forms the government is the party they support, and they don't want the government look bad, so they sit down and take.
No, beside that,
one side.
to protest is to engage in bacchanal.
Yes, that's what I'm going to say. Because it's below
Yes.
class. You understand? And that is why we continue where we are.
Definitely. And the thing is that whatever is said at the top, we take it as face value. It's correct because it so and so is that. We settle for that. That's got to be true. And we carry on.
Yeah, because you have this notion.
If it comes from the Prime Minister, then it must be correct. That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
You have a problem with it.
We've got to respect authority.
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
that's
I said that in the media. I said that in the media this morning, and one of the things I was on. 2 weeks, twice I brought up the question of the TB and the hospital. Nobody really picked my height. But the opposition member called a press conference, all of a sudden in front of the news, and they telling me, I said, but guys, I brought this to you, and we have to stop this business, especially as Jones, we have to stop this business of only waiting for an authority to get to speak. News is there. There's no responsibility. We should be going after them. You know?
It's about being an enterprising journalist, It's like I saw some discussions online this week, and I looked at what some of the people were saying, and I just had to shake my head and just say, what's the point? At some point you just tell yourself, look, it don't even make sense engaging in the discussion. It really doesn't. You just have to leave it alone.
Them right. Leave them right.
Yeah. So now you all know why I will focus on food.
There's excuse you're looking for. Go to the food channel. Look at George.
Exactly.
I have seen journalists refuse from publish a story because they can't get a comment from some government official.
Exactly.
They can't publish this story. But you have the information. Why you need some comment from some government official to publish a story?
Exactly.
Why you think the Minister of Health is convinced to take the stance that he takes? Because he knows that. He knows that people are going to listen to whatever they put out. Because whatever they put out is gospel.
And not only that, in many instances, like with the Israeli TV, you would have raised it, but in many instances, people know things and they will not say it simply because some official hasn't said it yet.
Exactly.
So, they have to wait. They have to wait. Wait for what? Information is not sacrosanct to anybody.
But I often wonder, I wonder when it got like this too. I worked in GIS, and I can speak, just from my experience of working in GIS. I remember the days when I worked in GIS. I covered health, finance, trade planning, and everything that fell under those ministries. And I would go in and speak to people, and they would give me information. People would call you when something was happening. I had a rapport with people and stuff. I could ask. Nobody had to tell me. Well, they had to ask the minister first. If there's something going on, Margaret, this is going on. When are you doing this? Oh, we're going here. Or we're doing that. Yeah, granted, what GIS does is cover government news. That's what it does. That's okay.
And
but
that's
nobody,
it.
right. But nobody hesitated to say, well, we can't tell you this. If they tell me they want this embargoed until a certain time, I understand it's embargoed until a certain time.
But otherwise, we get out there.
But today, everything is the minister had to okay. You had this city
and you have to get the other side.
You understand?
Exactly, that nonsense for other side.
Oh, please.
Listen.
I don't know when a balanced story means that you must hear from some government official.
Exactly.
Really?
And if you wait on them, they will never get the other side. So what
Especially when it is a story they don't want published.
Exactly. They have no other side.
Yeah, there is no other side. So,
but what I find amazing, right, is that the people who are not the journalists are the ones who are telling you how to do your craft.
You understand me? I was there.
And then you have the timid journalists who will kowtow to them and believe that, they can't publish, they have to wait. They have to hold on, they have to
Good
wait.
for them.
Really?
Good for them.
I don't have to wait on nobody.
Nobody.
Except there's a special situation that requires that you hold a story until something. A case of national emergency where you may decide that everybody will release at the same time.
Exactly.
Or they ask you to hold a story on a later date or something and they solve it. You crazy?
You have a breaking news story. You know this is it, and you're going to say, oh, you have to hold it for the other side.
I don't have to hold it for no other side.
The other side will come if it needs to come.
Exactly. You have the opportunity. I have no obligation to you. None at all.
Exactly. Well, let's take our final break and come back on MEK WE CHAT on the Valentine edition, the love edition.
And no.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical, and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners, and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance, and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
All right, guys.
The United
just
States.
Before you bung away again, you guys are so preoccupied there tonight. I think you're forgotten the folks on Facebook a little bit, haven't you? So I just want to sneak a couple of things here. Somebody by the name of Renewed Purpose, a little while ago, he published something here which says, George, is there a disconnect between our history as black people and the future that our leaders are trying to usher in, given that there is a general consensus that our leaders are doing worse than our colonial masters? He or she goes on to say, isn't it ironic that a country like Grenada with such a rich history has not made it mandatory that our history be taught in schools? Hello? Renewed purpose, I think you left them speechless.
I know, right? Well, renewed purpose, that's a whole nother discussion.
George, when it comes to this Black history and our history being taught in schools, that is such a peeve of mine because we like to sit down and wait on white people everything. You see, if some white people come and tell us to teach our history in school, we'll teach it in school. But we cannot wake up as a proud people and say this is our history and this is our heritage and it's going to be part of our curriculum. Look at CXE. When CXE came to the region, our focus should have been teaching Caribbean history.
That's
Instead, it gradually faded out of the curriculum till CXE itself talk about how few people do history. Why we don't have few people doing maths and English?
And you know the funny thing, it's sad because in the days of O levels, you know how many people were doing history?
I'm telling you.
Listen, you know how many people were doing history in the days of O levels?
Yes, but all of a sudden we don't have no white people telling us to study our own history. And we, as Catherine always says, we're ashamed of ourselves. We don't believe that we should study it except some massa come and tell us study it. These things irritate me, you see, George, it absolutely irritates me. And we behave as if the school curriculum is in somebody else's hands. It's not in ours. We can't change it, you know. We have to wait on somebody to come and change it. Simply because we have no sense of who we are as a people.
Well, you could say that. There are people, there are leaders today and politicians today who are trying their endeavor best to rewrite history when they are wrong their time. And that's part of the problem. They would love history to fade.
All right, Bev, take a deep breath and count to 10. Okay? Okay, sweetheart? Okay, now, just let me sneak one more in here. Kipling Francis says, don't forget, some people are just too lazy, so they depend on freeness and handouts. So they would never go against the hand that feeds them, even if they're given mess to eat.
What's a nice remark?
Well, that's true for some people, and it's also true that some people have their own interests, and so they will turn a blind eye. You know, it's not only the lazy and the needy, but there are also those who are quite well-to-do, and and are also protecting their own self-interest.
Yes.
So, you know, they will also.
So those are the three categories: the lazy, the needy, and the greedy.
The lazy, the needy, and the greedy. Oh man, the things that I'm learning here tonight. Okay.
Yeah. And the needy, to an extent, I would put in a different category too. Because you have people who are needy, who would never subscribe to some of these things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of cases, the needy are exploited.
Right. But the lazy and the greedy, the bane of our existence.
Yep.
So what else did we have on our menu for this evening? Oh yeah, we touched on it a little bit, you know, with Sir Gaston. After night, give him a night for this one. It's Sir Gaston and his comments on LIAT. I don't know how many people know that LIAT has been sued and LIAT lost a case against a former employee in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Some things are interesting about that. And it's funny, I heard Jerry raise a couple of those points on his early in the morning, a couple of things that I was thinking about. And one is that there doesn't seem to be a retirement age in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
No, there is, but you could work for how long you want to work. My guess is that U.S. Virgin Islands probably use the same retirement age as the United States.
They
Yes.
do, but apparently they can't force you into
No, nobody
retirement.
can force you into retirement. But the same is true here. Nobody can.
Yeah, because if they ask this man to retire at 62 and he said, nah, he's going to continue working. If there was a set retirement age at 65, as there is in most places, then he only has another 2 years to go.
No, apparently in the law, he could continue to work until he retires.
Exactly.
Yeah, he can continue to work. There's nothing which stops you from working beyond the retirement age. It's just that that's the, if you want to retire at that age, you can. And your benefits and stuff, you know, your social security benefits and whatever else will kick in. Actually, and the U.S. retirement age for people born after a certain age is not going to 67.
That is not the way it is in our islands at all.
Yeah, they push you out when you get old. They send you to pasture. Yeah.
Yes, you have to go.
No, they just kick you out.
Yes.
Yeah, well, LIAT has to learn that if it's operating in the USVI, it's going to be subject to United States laws.
Law, exactly.
And under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, you cannot discriminate against somebody because of age. It's one of 5 factors that you cannot discriminate against somebody. And so they will learn. If they don't want to deal with that, then all you have to do is not operate there. Simple as that. You have a staff on the ground, it means you have a present and you subject it to the labor laws of that particular country. Life is tough.
Or they can just obey the laws and stop acting stupid. That is what
and in a lot of and you see the thing is too, there's been so much talk here about age discrimination recently and the treatment, because you know people get put out to pasture, and get treated badly. By the time you hit 40, you're kind of like, oh yeah, you know, you're old.
You're old now.
So there's been a lot of pushback about that now, you know. So I mean, LIAT just was not in a good place to go after that guy. You see, and
big mistake.
Yeah, big mistake. If they know they want to swim in the deep ocean, then they got to learn to deal with the big fish. If you can't stay with that, stay in your little bowl.
No, but you hear what the next thing he goes to say, oh, they don't know LIAT's financial position.
That's not their problem. And you know what?
Since when that's an issue?
And you know, there's something here that where those big payouts generally are intended to be punitive. It's not necessarily because it is designed to punish. It's not so much because they want to give somebody that award, but it's really designed to punish. That's the exact reason why it's that high.
Precedent and create the kind of precedents they want.
Yeah, it's really designed to punish, and they tend to have like 2 phases here. You would have an actual award, and you have a punitive, and it's literally referred to as a punitive thing. It's intended to punish.
So you'll have the award for damages, which was
right, and then you it's intended to punish.
Punitive award.
Yeah.
But the damages would cover things possible like
and that is normally lower. That's normally substantially lower. The punitive damages what is really kicking.
Hold. Margaret and Bev, both of you all going at the same time.
No, we must. He's trying to listen. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Renewed Purpose says, George, I'm so glad to tune into such an educational and informative program. I'm really impressed with your team, and I wish more of Grenada could tune in to learn from these discussions. There is a serious problem with the psyche of our people, and it will take a lot of work to jolt them into reevaluating themselves individually and collectively. Take a whiff of that, Jerry.
No, I mean, I think it's a huge carrier problem we have about people taking things that are important. And let me get to take the risk of being controversial here. It comes up now with all of this big talk about what the circus artists produce and how people run behind those things rather than paying attention to the real issues that matter to their lives. Now, I would say everybody have their choice. But we really need somehow to get our people around to understanding that a lot of the issues that they can't respect to are issues of their existence and are issues of their bread and butter. But they don't seem to show the same kind of
you know, and even as you say that, and I remember when I was in Form 6, having a discussion. You know, we had this discussion about the social role of carnival in society. And sometimes it acts as a mean for that moment in time to help people forget all the other problems and is a distraction, you know, from all the other issues that are confronting them. And they even made the case that if you were to take carnival away from Trinidad, it would probably just blow Trinidad out of the water. Yeah, because basically, by the time people's worries start and the problems in the society starts to face them, carnival is on them again. So you forget it again for that period in time.
That is why I told you.
So it has its social
Friday
role.
Is liming the
It's social and political role.
If you take liming out of Trinidad, the race thing got completely out of the water. Because on Friday in Trinidad, people don't remember race. Everybody
And let me tell you something. Be it Trinidad or anywhere, every politician understand that function, distraction. And I mean, this is not to say that people should not enjoy themselves and whatnot, but the reality is it also has its role as a means of distracting people from the real ills that are facing them in the society.
That's what it has become. Or is that what it was historically?
Well, I would say that probably historically it wasn't that, but it has certainly become that in a sense. There may be people who want to debate that, but, you know.
And that's something I touch on because, again, it's a lack of knowledge of our history that we celebrate Carnival without knowing the history of Carnival. So we wake up this morning and we say, oh, Carnival is a nice thing to help us forget. So let's repeat it to forget and use it in this kind of way without any connection to where Carnival is coming from or what purpose it served or why we started this Carnival celebration in the first place. And that is how we lose our roots and lose the sense of who we are as a people.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carnival becomes this meaningless thing where it's just about feeling good and it's not about celebrating anything.
And then, you know, I guess, and it comes down to when we don't tell our own stories, you know, and we allow other people to tell our stories for us, you know, and as you guys have said before, you know, white people say, you know, tell it how they want to tell it and whatever. I mean, I'm sure, look, one of the things that stuck out with me this week, over the weekend, I mean, I'm sure you guys heard about all the brouhaha in Virginia with the governor and his blackface, whatnot, and everything else.
Yeah.
And there he is on TV Sunday on one of the talk shows making the rounds and literally refer to Africans coming to this country as indentured servants. and literally dates it back to the 1600s when they came here. Now tell me something. Which African came to this side of the world as an indentured servant?
But he does not know his history.
Don't laugh. Because here is what? There's a move in this country to change textbooks, to refer, and they're already teaching students that, you know, they were happy, the slaves were happy to do this. And you have somebody like Ben Carson who gets up and say pretty much the same thing. So can you blame a white person for now saying indentured servant? How far you think it will be before you hear black people running around saying, yeah, you know, we come here as indentured servants. Hello, the Indians came as indentured servants. We came as slaves.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the same thing.
If you actually get a chance to multiply Ben Carson, you get to that.
But you understand what I'm saying? And these are the issues. And you know, the sad thing about it, you haven't heard much noise about this man who is saying, well, you know, and people who are defending him and saying, well, you know, he made a mistake a couple of years ago and there should be redemption and all of this stuff. But he comes on a talk show on Sunday morning and says, they came as indentured servants. And I am not sure how many of us as black people pick it up. You see, those are the things, the corrections and that we have to make and not apologize for that. You see, and I would always refer to the Jews. I could never see a Jew sitting down and hearing somebody saying something like that and not take them to task.
Exactly. We got 2 minutes. We got like 1.5 minutes. But you're right, Margaret. And it's even coming back to the whole business we're talking about us standing up for ourselves and for the things that matter But folks, I think we have run out of time.
Yeah.
So George pulled the plug on us. He's leaning forward, smiling. Let me say thanks to all of those who hands in the air.
Hold on. Facebook. Jem
Okay.
Sheriff Kelly says, he's referring to Ben Carson here, and he says, Ben is a satisfied Negro.
House slave.
A house one, yes. A house one, that's for true.
Okay, Jerry, let's kick butt. Let's go.
Yes, let's call it a day. And thanks to those of you following us on Facebook. Join us, share the message, tell others that on a Thursday evening from 8 o'clock we're here and you can join the discussion. Thanks, everybody. And Rachel, thanks for joining us too. Have a great rest of the week. Great weekend.
And you,
2 hours left of Valentine's.
Jerry,
George, go ahead, George.
Here's the glass.
No, she's offering us champagne. Jerry, you're on every morning at
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And early in the morning with Jerry George. Solid fall cock. Big fall cock. Big cock.
Join Jerry on Facebook, 6 o'clock, and that's weekday mornings, right?
Yeah,
weekday morning.
Okay. One love to you too, Gem FM. Thanks, everybody. You have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye, darling.